Welcome to The Disruption Is Now. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore how AI is impacting our jobs, careers, lives, and the human experience. Each episode, host Greg Matusky will converse with visionaries and innovators at the forefront of AI, diving into its challenges, opportunities, and impact. So buckle up as we venture into the heart of disruption, and together, let's unfold the future.
Well, welcome to another episode of The Disruption Is Now, the podcast where we talk about all things AI and how it's disrupting our culture, our commerce, and just about everything that we do in the way we work and more the way we play and entertain. I'm Greg Matusky. I'm the host. I'm also the CEO of Gregory FCA. And as many of you know, we were early pioneers to the AI revolution, and that's why we call it The Disruption Is Now. And my guest is an interesting connection because I'm on LinkedIn one day. I had never followed Tim before this, Tim Donovan of Seek Argus. And he had written a piece, and it was really kind of a clarion's call to agency owners who aren't fully, not just dabbling in AI or learning AI, but rather really mastering AI. And it was pretty aggressive in that it said, learn or die. And I remember 3 years ago at the Icons convention for PRSA, I gave a session and somebody said, well, what if we don't want to evolve like that? And I was kind of dumbfounded. And I said, then find a new career. And there was a gasp in the room, right? So, Tim, I want to thank you for being with us. I just want to make sure that I get that right about your firm and where you come from.
Yeah, you sure did, Greg. First of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and what a great topic to discuss. You know, I've been focused on this topic for a couple of years now, and you know, if leaders don't realize that AI is like the invention of fire or the steam engine, I mean, it is really a transformational force, then they're going to find themselves in a tough position if they don't start really thinking about their strategies and implementations.
This is true. You know, my story began 4 years ago, and my son, who's an engineer, an MBA out of Carnegie Mellon, told me that my business was facing as an existential threat, and I didn't know what it was. This was before ChatGPT, and so that's what really got me started. And I just could not believe at that time that a machine could write someday. I didn't believe it. Part of it was my own arrogance. Part of it, as you may know, in marketing and PR, we like to think ourselves as unique artists, something that can never be replicated. And yet, even at that early stage, when I first saw it, my mouth fell open. It was full of errors and hallucinations. However, it was kind of like, what good is a newborn baby? I just couldn't believe that it could construct a sentence that even made sense, let alone paragraphs, stories, and even books. So what was your first breakout experience in the world of AI?
Well, before Gen AI really hit the scene, I had been working at two different technology companies. Both were machine learning companies that were trying to solve large scale problems using machine learning technology. One was credit underwriting for small businesses and being able to collapse the credit assessment time from days, weeks, and months to 3 minutes. And the second one was using machine learning to find money laundering in big banking systems. And I became enamored with the technology and how machines could find nuanced signals, good or bad, that people could react to and build, value sets around. Then I became an agency president, and during that time, ChatGPT came out, and I thought to myself, "Oh wow, this is a moment in history that I will not forget," because we went from robust machine learning systems with lots of capital and investment to something that was democratized to consumers and end users. And you're right, like the original sort of versions of ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini could write, but it wasn't perfect, but it was a spark. And it did show that machines over time can start to look at patterns, make assumptions, and develop content. And for our industry, where it's so labor intensive and people intensive, this was a canary in the coal mine moment in time, where as machines and AI starts to get better, it challenges how we should be thinking about work. And it also challenges the business models that we've built over time that are people and hour intensive.
Tell me, I spend so much time speaking to insiders. I'll be going to AI 4 here in 2 weeks, I guess a week when this airs. Um, and it's almost like going to the gym every day. If you go to the gym every day, you see people who are in shape and you think, oh my God, I am so out of shape. Then you go out in the general public and you suddenly realize, you know what? I'm not that out of shape. I mean, compared to the rest of the world. And I think it's like that a bit in AI. I mean, my LinkedIn feeds are nothing but AI, right? Nothing but news, thought leadership, ideas, breakthroughs, whatever. And I tend to lose perspective, Tim, on where the agency business as a whole is because well, we just won the PRSA Silver Anvil Award for being the most AI enabled firm in the country. So, what's your perspective? What are you seeing about adoption, about use, and other factors that drive productivity?
Well, adoption is happening much faster. According to McKinsey, just did the state of AI report in 2024, and now what they've reported is 78% of organizations are using AI in at least one business function, and that's up from 55% the year prior. So in general, there's a lot more adoption that's happening, and quite frankly, the groups within companies that are adopting AI the fastest tend to be marketing, IT, and sales. Now, when it comes to agencies, man, we're seeing slower adoption, right? The larger agencies and holding companies have been able to invest over time in technology and talent. Smaller agencies haven't. They have typically have an IT team. They don't have anybody who's an AI expert. So they're laggards in terms of adoption, and they're just starting to scratch the surface, which is a shame because when you think about like the AI investment is creating a 3-to-1 ROI for early adopters. But really only 10% of mid-sized companies are fully integrated with AI, mid-sized agencies. So we have a lot of ground to cover. One of the challenges too is the skills gap. People are not prepared to implement AI in a way that's really beneficial both for the agency and for the client. And so there's a ginormous skills gap problem. There's a tech stack problem where agencies are just not architected to bring in AI tools and data that provides that kind of value. And then the last thing I'll mention is time. Man, more and more clients are becoming sophisticated with sort of baseline AI tools, and that's putting pressure on agencies to like be at parity or beyond. So I'm not seeing massive adoption. I'm seeing opportunity available. But I think the more sophisticated firms such as yourself, you understand the value proposition, the time savings, the sort of readdressing the business models. But the smaller agencies are really stuck in kind of the status quo, and that's going to hurt them
Well,
in the long
it's
run.
interesting. Here's what I'm seeing, and I'm a part of different associations, Public Relations Council of America and PRSA. The large agencies have impediments too. And one of the big things is inflexibility and sunk costs, that they've built these things and they're not willing to re-engineer them because it's going to take great costs. They also have an arrogance about them that prevents them from fully implementing. Every time I talk to the head of a large agency, and I consider that much larger than mine, they talk at length about. They talk in a way that I'm certain they don't want to give up their role as an expert, and they're concerned about less hourly billing, and they're concerned about losing fees, and they're concerned about their clients outpacing them. So they throw scare tactics into everything. I mean, many of them are still talking about hallucinations without even talking about the simple solutions to those hallucinations. Simple for us, perhaps, in that you can inform the machine, you can direct the machine, you can feed the data that you want be perceived in the final product, to be communicated in the final product. They don't talk about that. What they talk about are all the scaries, a lot of them, because it reestablishes themselves as an expert. The smaller firms, many are more nimble and can take chances, but they're also have impediments in that, like you said, the time commitment, right? It's not expensive to implement all the different AI tools, right? It's not a real expense. I mean, $30 a seat, 100 people every month, yeah, you got to pay it, right? But on the other hand, the time is hard to find. You have very busy teams, and I'm finding it really comes down to a change management issue where we had to do an extraordinary amount of training. We had to first build the safeguards, and our safeguards are very interesting, Tim. It's stay current on AI. If you stay current, right, what you said yesterday about a safeguard isn't going to be what it is tomorrow. So we have to always be reading, learning, connected with thought leaders, going to conferences, understanding what Cloudflare's new announcement today is going to mean, or that when OpenAI is integrated with your G Suite, what that'll mean. Um, then you have to create an atmosphere of joy, meaning you need to go out there and show people how they can advance their careers and do really cool things that'll surprise and delight the client, and share it internally in such a way that you just don't have one advocate or evangelist, you have teams of advocates. And the next is you continually train, where you show them the technique while they're working on it, show them the risk, right? In that, yeah, you can have a wrong citation embedded in it, a wrong assumption, but then show them the opportunity. And the only way I was able to get acceptance was to cloak this opportunity in terms of what's in it for them, right? Certainly, what's in it for me is obvious. I get increased productivity. What's in it for them is a viable career moving forward. And that's something that I'm really committed to, is making our industry and making individuals more in demand. And that's by what you said in the beginning, I think, about AI, is that it was a huge sea shift. What did you say? It's the biggest advancement since fire.
It's like fire or the steam engine,
The steam engine. The
that's
steam engine,
transformational.
as soon as it was deployed, steam in industrial America, it was a 38% productivity bounce. Now, I'm not seeing 38%, but I'm seeing 13%. And 13% revenue per employee for me is good news. Now, for an employee, they don't really care about what I see as productivity, right? What they care about is, am I mastering tools that are going to be important to my career, right? Am I getting something I can't get anywhere else, that no one else is really giving them the kind of time and intense listening and learning and really moving them forward? And am I reducing the amount of friction in my life so that I can feel better about myself? Because you and I know, as communicators, and I'm still a prisoner of this, the one thing that keeps me up at night is when I get something back from a client with heavy red lines.
Yep.
I'm 64 years old, Tim, and it still hits me. Like, was I not listening? Have I lost my magic? Didn't I know what I was talking about? Right. And if you can reduce that, for many people, they feel better about the job they're doing. They gain a level of self-esteem. They can contribute and find a place at the table on a higher level more quickly and advance their careers. So that's been my secret sauce. You can dissect it. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where
No,
I'm
I
nutty.
want to. I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to applaud you, Greg, because what you're doing is absolutely right. Change management. You can bring tools into an agency until the cows come home, but it really is about changing people's mindset and their work habits. So there's a guy that I follow on LinkedIn named Connor Grennan. I don't know if
Oh,
you've.
I've had him on my podcast.
Oh, you have?
NYU,
Okay.
yeah. Stern
Ch-
School, yeah.
yeah, chief AI architect at,
I follow him. I follow him also.
yeah, and Connor's great, and like he really, for me, hits at the heart of some of the biggest challenges, which is changing hearts and minds and creating an environment of adoption, right? And I think one thing that I write a lot about is agency over AI, right? AI is a tool. And what we can't have happen is people just give up their agency. This happens a lot in agencies where it's like, oh, I'm going to use ChatGPT. I'm going to do a bunch of research. I'm going to write a press release. And then they take the output as gospel. It's like, no, that's not the best use case for the tool. Like, you have to have human in a loop oversight, and you have to drive the value of the AI tool you're using. And you have to have that mindset that it's like a hammer or like a saw. The hammer or saw doesn't dictate the outcome of the project. You, as the human, do. And so I applaud you for creating an environment where people can excel in using AI, because this is the future. And so everybody should be really thinking about what is their career path, how will AI affect that career path, and how can they maintain their personal agency over the tools that they're using. And it has to start at the top too. The other thing is, I see a lot of agencies that form AI councils, right, where they have senior leaders that meet once a month, have discussions about tools, and then they delegate to junior staff members and it's like, make it happen. And then they just walk away. That model does not work. It's a waste of time. You need to have subject matter experts in senior leadership roles who are the tip of the AI spear, right? If they master workflows or processes or procedures using particular tools, they can share and guide their junior staff on how to take advantage of those things.
Now I'm going to stop you right there, because this was actually my next question. There's evidence that AI works best for people who are subject matter experts, right? It works best for people that know the topic. Sometimes, and walk me through this, sometimes I look up, I say, am I just performing parlor tricks? Meaning I know how to message, right? And I know how to consider many things when I create. Who is the audience? What is the tone? Where do I meet them? Meaning, where are they in their level of understanding of my brand or my company or my process? And because of that, when people say it's going to have a profound effect at different levels within a corporation, what do you think about that? What do you think? Is this a tool that's best fit for people higher up in the intellectual province of marketing, or is it a tool for people who are in the junior level?
I think it can be a tool for everyone, depending on the use case and how you use AI. So, like, I have clients that are senior level executives that want to formulate a strategic idea, and so they use AI to take that idea and give it a body and give it context. Where I also have clients with junior staff members that are using AI for particular workflows like social media scheduling, social listening, research and insights harvesting. So I think depending on the use case, AI can lend itself to both the senior level thinker, who's trying to work through strategy, think about new campaigns, as well as the people that are on the execution side. So it just really depends on the sort of the environment, the product or the solution service, and sort of the people that are using the tools.
So help me out with another issue that I think about often, and it has to do with understanding understanding where it fits in the organization, right? With us, the first time I saw ChatGPT, and I'd been working previously in trying to AI enable my firm for 2 years, and we had built a lot of different formatted prompts, like the old Jasper,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Whatever happened to Jasper? I guess it's the irony of the innovator. They thought we would all use it as a very formatted approach, and lo and behold, it's a very general use approach. So I saw it, and I'd been building all these content categories and all the information you would need to fill in. I didn't know I was building prompts, right? So when ChatGPT came along, it was the most joyful day of my career, because I suddenly realized that I could do something I could never do before, and that was teach other people how to create messaging. It's the hardest thing in the world. teaching someone to write. I can find great designers everywhere. No offense to my team here. I can find great videographers, Ben. I don't mean to offend you, but finding really great writers was very difficult. Very difficult. I give seminars, I give workshops. When I saw it and I realized that I'd spent most of my career trying to train other people to no avail, to little avail, and really with ChatGPT or with Gemini or with Bard or any of them, it is teaching the machine how to write, right? That's what you're doing. If you do it with RAG and giving it a background, you're just giving it what the writer knows, right, in the research. And if you do it through the prompt, you're just telling this individual how to write or rewrite, which I started my career as a writer. It would happen all the time. I'd submit it to an editor and they'd say more interviews, and they'd say, cut this or go deeper here, right? And that was a process, which is a lost process because we don't see that anymore. Uh, I always joke, the last time I heard from a fact checker at a media point was probably 2001, and when he called me, I said, "You're it. You're the last one." I haven't been called in years, right? But, it was a joyful occasion. I guess my question to you is, what was it like when you first saw it? How did it surprise you?
Wow. I mean, so many thoughts come to mind. One, when I first experienced ChatGPT, I thought it was incredible for its speed, its ability to translate a prompt into an output. Now, to your point, early on, people really didn't understand that, what goes in also comes out, or the end is determined by the beginning. There's a Latin saying for that. But I was surprised by the speed, and I was also surprised by how it could configure your thoughts or build research or connect the dots. But again, I was always somebody who trusts but verify, right? So if I were using GPT early, or Claude or Gemini early on, I would always question what the output is, because it seems so clear and so believable,
So assertive.
so assertive. But that's the problem, right? Because it in many ways, and the LLMs have gotten better due to training and usage. But in the early days, I thought the speed was incredible. I thought the output was really exciting. But I also realized that there were a lot of holes in what I was seeing. Like, there was definitely hallucinations, definitely misinformation, lack of citations. It would just sort of the explainability of the output, I guess, was the biggest challenge for me. And
Let me
so,
let me
yeah, go.
continue on with what you said. Connect the dots. Maybe I'll go on a little bit more metaphysical level here, right? Um, is there some level of consciousness when you said connecting the dots and helping me formulate my thoughts, right? Can that only be done by some perception of the world, or is it really just a predictive engine that's really good at that, made to make us feel good as the user and to be very, very accommodating? What do you think? Is there something deeper going on there?
Well, the future, where everything is moving towards, is artificial general intelligence, which has this sort of perceptive ability that's akin to being human-like reasoning. But we're not there yet. So a lot of what you see is just sort of articulation of patterns, right? And deep articulation of patterns. So over time, as AI gets more advanced, we'll see more human-like reasoning than we have previously. But right now, I sort of take it as, you're asking for a specific thing, you get a specific output. I don't think there's any attachment to the reality of what's going on in the world. It's sort of binary, right? It is what it is, based on what the machine hears you asking, and what it discovers, and what it creates. But
Well, I will be, I said, attending AI4, and Jeff Hinton will be there, Jeffrey Hinton. And, he always says, if you think it's just a predictive machine, you really don't understand AI. This is what he says. He's very negative on what the outcome's going to be. And he always addresses AI audiences. They're very positive, right? Um, and it's weird. I never thought anyone could learn through a single modality, right? Through words on a keyboard. I just didn't think there was as much information as was needed to construct a perception of the world, right? I do think there's something about language, and I've spoken to many computational linguists um, who shook their head yes when we talk about this. I think there's a level of information in language that we don't understand, and is more than we understand. I mean, the seven syntax of or synergisms of Aristotle, right? Or persuasion. I think it stops short. I think there's something in there that tells us more than we realize than just words. This is me now speaking. Um, and I'm mystified by that. And the biggest change AI has made to me was certainly enabling my firm, but also just in my worldview, in what I believe is possible. You know, uh, I started in this business in 1986 on IBM Selectric, right? I saw the big first thing I saw was the GUI interface, and I said, "This changes everything." The next thing I saw was the internet. I was fortunate enough to work with a number of very key players in e-commerce at that time, and then smartphones and social media. Social media, ironically, was introduced completely opposite of AI. It was brought into the firm by young people. We never considered any risks. No one ever thought there was any risk in networking with your old high school friends, right? No one thought, no, at least with AI, every conference I go to, half of it is dedicated to the risk. At least we're thinking about it, right? And then, of course, AI. And like yourself, who said it, it's right up there with the steam engine, or right up there with the invention of fire. I think it's going to beat the internet for the impact it has on us as a society and as us as communicators. I mean, I am a storyteller, and up until this point, nothing but human beings have created stories. And now machines have the ability to tell stories. So where do we take that? Where do we shape that? How do we um, how do we make that jump? It's such a cataclysmic change from the way it's always been done. Am I just babbling, or does any of this make sense
No,
to you?
no, I understand what you're saying. Well, first, the great Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message, right? And we've gone from cave paintings to Gutenberg Bible to radio to television to the internet. And I feel like AI is now the new medium, right, by which we communicate and we connect. Um, AI, one a term that just bubbled up on my radar recently is vibe marketing, right, which is really the ability to connect to an audience in a deeper, more personalized level, where AI becomes the sort of linchpin to be able to do that. Now, I sort of view AI as the tool of manifestation of human thought. I don't, like it can emulate creativity, it can emulate storytelling, but I don't think it's there at the point where it is as good as a human, where it can incorporate kind of human experience. But I do think, right, like the flip side of this too, Greg, is like what are audiences being satisfied with? What kinds of flavors of AI are really moving the meter? I'll give you an example. Coke, I think Coca-Cola Company last Christmas developed a full campaign using nothing but AI. It was a snow globe campaign. And people were like, well, it's not as good as the past Coca-Cola campaigns because they used real people and it was very emotional and it was a connected storytelling. Well, you know what? This campaign that came out had well over 1 billion views. And so AI was able to come very close to the emotional resonance that a highly produced people focused campaign had previously done. So one question is, how close to the human connection can AI support? But also, are tastes changing on the other side, where AI becomes this sort of standard mechanism through which messages are delivered, and people can get that sort of same feeling in a newer way. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point which we overlook sometimes, and that is there is a hierarchy of language and where you can get by for a lot of things. Good writing is dictated by conveying as much information as you can in as limited space as possible in a tone and language that others can receive, can perceive. Right? I mean, that's business writing. I always bring up the letter that John Steinbeck once wrote to Marilyn Monroe. Right? You read that letter and you ask the machine, and the machine can come up with the business writing all day long. But if you show that machine John Steinbeck's letter, it can't emulate that. It can make short sentences as that does. It can use active verbs as that does. But the nuanced humor in it, how he addressed the fact that it sounded like he was asking it for himself, but it was for his nephew, and his nephew, a 13-year-old, and how his nephew was coming into age, and what this, what this on a broader level meant. Machines can right now can't understand that nuance, right? I've tested it 100 times on that letter. It doesn't come close to the emotional, to the preciseness of the language, to the emotional, to the nuanced human experience that's in that page and a half letter, which is typewritten and hand signed by John Steinbeck. So there is this gradation, I think, of what's acceptable at different levels. And the critics, they look for that highest level, right? Oh, it'll never be able to talk like humans, when really 90% of human communications is just to convey information. It's not really to reach those high notes. It's not really to make a crescendo. It's not really, we're not persuading and articulating. And when we write a memo about the new dress code for the company, right? It's just, that's not the intent of it. And I think people don't understand that. I'll tell you, one of the things, the hardest things I had to teach with AI to people was, and I taught a long time, and I would say, there's 6 pillars. Here's how you write a prompt. And I'd say tone. And I suddenly realized, what a tone is, what I mean when I say tone, Tim. I know what it means. Most people have no clue that there's different styles or tones of writing, that academicians write differently than business people, write differently than lawyers, or write differently than preachers or politicians, or do it to be conversational, or do it to be entertaining, or do it to be informational, or to be aggressive, right? People don't understand that. So I created this one platform called Crisis Calm here at Greg Matusky, which is a crisis communications platform. You can put in any scenario. You can pre-plan on it. You can create different stakeholders. It communicates to different spokespeople within the firm. And I had to sit down and physically write out every kind of tone I could think about, so I could know that I knew, so that somebody who was not schooled in the art of writing could actually choose from it and say, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a denial tone. We're just going to deny it, right? Or this is going to be an empathetic tone where we're going to say, we made a mistake and we're working to improve ourselves." So,
I think over time, though, machines, the more data that is put into these LLMs, and the more sort of guidance and use cases, you'll start to see machines, provide maybe that kind of tonality, and be able to discern that. But we're a ways away from that. And I think sort of right now, one mantra that I have is, don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Right. Which is like, you're going to get good content out of, if you know how to prompt, and you know how to what I call an LLM stack, right? Where you can go between different tool sets to verify data and citations and writing styles and all of those things, then you're probably going to get something that's decent for the audiences you're trying to connect to. And quality will get better over time. But to the point that you're making is, do machines understand sort of the human experience nuances at this moment? No, not at all. We're not there yet.
as an aside, I'm working with a company right now that is called Reflective AI, Reflect the AI, and I'm an investor, total, and I'm one of the founders. And what it does, total transparency, I invested in it, and I'm one of the founders. It allows you to recreate anybody important in your life who has since passed, and it prompts you to add information, and it uses their voice fingerprint. We don't have avatars yet. That's still not the legacy prevents that. And I read this quote, right? And it's an African saying that says, every time somebody dies, a library burns down. And that really hit me because there is so much of the human experience which is very hard to get at. Really, we're talking pre 1990, maybe that's a post 1990 that's available to us on the internet. Much of that has been lost too, right? We don't have a lot of the human experience that wasn't online before there was an online. And at the same time, we don't have the human experience. Let's say what it was like in 1930 Chicago in a specific neighborhood. Now, there might be city records that account for that. There might be novels that have been written about it, and historians may have studied it. But you don't have the experience of the person to inform the machine, right? And I think that's part of the problem. We'll never be able to really feed it all that nuance. So that one may have known every brew pub on the street in Chicago and every drunk that was in that pub in Chicago and what that culture was really like, right? You might have a story by Sinclair Lewis, but you don't really have the human experience. It's been edited. It can't give you the richness of what that bar was like or what that culture was like. So I don't know if we'll ever really get there. I think we will hit a ceiling where we just can't capture it all. That'll give the machine the same kind of understanding that we have. But that's my metaphysical. These are the things I read somewhere. If you're not up all night at least 10 times every month thinking about AI, you're really not thinking about AI. So
You raise an interesting point. It sort of makes me think about how we chronicle our life experiences. We have a lot of systems of record, right? We have photographs, we have video, we have audio, so on and so forth. And I think one of the things that I see, this is also pertinent to the world of agencies, is AI is becoming a system of intelligence, right? More than just a record, right? It's consuming data, it's consuming information around that data, and it can start to create more of a continuity around history. So, like, for example, we talk a lot in I'll switch this over to agencies, right? We talk a lot about systems of records in agencies where we have repositories, we use Google, whatever the case may be. Where AI, I think, is going to be helpful is moving forward, you're going to see greater client service continuity by using AI tools and AI systems that will chronicle and keep the knowledge of how a client is served, the things the client likes, such that when team members churn or leave, you don't have any disruption. And I think agencies will start to implement more AI as systems of intelligence to keep that continuity and to keep the service value up. And I think people will start to do that in their individual lives. And, it's interesting you talk about creating AI, I guess, agents of people that have passed. I know in
call them
Japan, elders in Japan, that's a big thing too. They've been creating these sort of, digital twins of people that they've lost. And I think over time, because we're capturing so much of ourselves in digital and in social, so on and so forth, you might find that your AI becomes something that experiences the world with you, over time. But again, we're not there yet.
And yeah, I agree. I think there'll be a time where you have a special assistant which remembers everything you've done, who you've touched, and could be accessed in the future for any number of reasons certainly for continuity, but also for advice, for legacy preservation, for family education. I think there's kinds of things that opens the door. But Tim, it's been a great conversation. I want to thank you for all your time. I tend to go a little bit off track than just the marketing and PR scope of these, but I do spend a lot of time thinking about this and what it means, and I can tell you do too. I appreciate. How can somebody get a hold of you if they're interested in really creating a new kind of agency or firm?
Oh, I appreciate that, Greg. Yeah. So Tim at Seek Argus, SEEKARGUS. I also have a Substack, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And, I'm happy to share what I've learned. I started a newsletter on LinkedIn and then a Substack. And the writing that I typically create is really things that I've experienced, questions that I have. So I write a lot about AI governance. I write a lot about tools. I write about frameworks. These are all things that have been in my mind that I'm happy to share with whoever, because this is a pivotal moment. I mean, if you're not taking AI seriously as an agency, man, you're gonna struggle. And really, there's an immense amount of opportunity if you implement AI in the right way, and you've got people who are excited like you, Greg. You create an environment where people realize there's opportunity by learning more about AI, then ability to grow revenue, create new services. It's really unlimited, and so people should really be buying into this moment in time.
Well, Tim, I will endeavor to stay connected. I really find you an interesting guy. I got to congratulate you on, I think, some of your thoughts are the purest I've heard on the agency side since I started doing this podcast like 80 episodes ago or 70 episodes ago. So let's stay in touch. And if anybody out there is looking for a consultant to help them understand this process, Tim, I'd highly recommend what you're doing to the world, because I think we both have the ultimate goal of ensuring. I always get that wrong. Ensuring the future viability of our industry. So thanks for being with us. Very informative.
Thank you, Greg. I really enjoyed our conversation.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion today and want to continue exploring the transformative power of AI, please check out more episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.